Hey, are you a business owner, entrepreneur, or professional? If so, we want you to apply to be a featured guest on our show. My name is Adam Torres, and I host the Mission Matters series of podcasts. I've recorded over 3,000 episodes, and we are just getting started. How do you know if you'd be a good guest to be on the show? Well, only one way to find out, and that's to apply, but I'm going to let you in on a little secret. We want guests that have a story to tell, guests with a brand, a product, or a service that can benefit my audience of listeners. If this sounds like you, go to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. I'd love to talk to you and get to know more about your story. Again, head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, now let's get into the show. Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Business Podcast, your source for all things business. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today is a very special episode. So today I have one of our authors on the line from one of our recently released books. So it's Women Business Leaders Volume Number 1, our very first inaugural edition. And we're going to get into that, and we're also going to get into the writing. But before we do, Banu Raghuraman, I want to read her intro, what she's up to, and then we'll go into it. So Banu is Director in the Strategy Department, overseeing product management and operations optimization over at Infotech Research Group, also known as ITRG. And as I mentioned, she's just recently been published in our recent edition of the Women's Leader Volume 1, and her title of her chapter is Empathy, the Foundation of EQ. Banu, first off, just want to say, hey, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Adam. It's great to be here.
Oh my gosh! So first of all, we're going to get into your book chapter and your topic, and I just want to say this is a little preview. I'm like, when I was your opening 2 paragraphs, I'm like, hold on, I see Star Trek, I see Sheldon Cooper from Big Bang Theory, like right there. These just stuck out on the page, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. I'm in, Banu. You already sold me. So I want to get into the chapter, but before we do, I want to give a little bit more of your background on what you're doing over at ITRG. So tell us a little bit more about what you do, and also and how you kind of got started in your career.
Sure. So Infotech Research Group is a research and advisory firm in the IT domain, and what we offer our clients is essentially confirmed and researched information about how various IT processes and aspects can be managed in their respective companies. We also have an HR arm, Human Resources, and they're called McLean. They do similar work to ITRG, except in the HR space. So that's sort of what my company does, and my specific role is in the internal operations in the strategy team, whereby I work with multiple groups of stakeholders in their product management space, in their process optimization space, and essentially it's to assist them with anything that they need to make sure that their business is running smoothly. So there could be requests from marketing all the way to technological improvements or innovations, and pretty much we carry that entire gamut within the team itself. So that's my role at Infotech Research Group. In terms of how I started my career as a technology professional, and I think that's sort of where it has brought me today to Infotech Research Group as well, with the work that they do, is bringing the best practices to the community. So having started in technology, I was exposed to different aspects in terms of development, testing, business analysis, product management, product ownership, and things like that. So by dribbling in these various tasks and roles, I have been able to get a very all-rounded approach of what it means like to strategize within the technology domain. So understanding all the hands-on aspect, which is something that I refer to in my chapter as well. The fact that you knowing all these different aspects of what needs to be done in technology helps you become a better leader. So my aspirations in my career are to go towards the leadership role within technology, which I'm slowly getting to. But that's sort of where I started in my career and where I want to end up in the future.
No, that's awesome, and I think it's a great transition, Banu. So let's dive into this chapter. So empathy, the foundation of EQ. First off, what was the inspiration for picking this angle and choosing this topic for the book?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like leadership has evolved quite a bit from, say, my parents' time to now, and I've always seen my father as someone who talks a lot about these leadership principles and how we can apply that personally to our life as well. But beyond the concept of leadership itself, I feel like everyone becomes a different leader because of the kind of personality that they are. So not everyone is necessarily coming up or born with these leadership qualities, but a lot of us groom into certain personalities. But what has happened is that often we look for specific characteristics in a leader, and we tend to steer towards that direction. And what that does is that we tend to filter out a lot of the other personalities or characteristics that are important for leadership to really be the best shape and form. So when that happens, we lose a peace connection with other human beings because we are trying to trend or mold ourselves into one type of leader. Empathy is something that has come quite naturally to me because even in the chapter I mentioned that I was someone who felt a lot more when I was talking to people. For me, it's all about experiences. How I connect to a person is based out of what kind of experiences we share. I am more interested in borrowing a human from the human library to understand what their life's been rather than, say, a technical book off the shelf. So I always feel like technical aspects can be learned, but the empathy part, not a lot of people realize that you still need to build and focus on that because that's sort of the food for your soul, for the lack of a better term, that defines who you are, how your relationships shape up, whether that be in personal or private or work life. So that being said, I felt that this was a very key topic to talk about in the scope of leadership because we don't want to start molding people to tune towards a specific style of leadership, but make sure that we include empathy because at the end of the day, we need to understand the people that we are trying to lead or guide or mentor. So that's where the inspiration came from.
That's, well said, and just to be clear for the audience, this chapter, beautifully written, and Banu goes through quite a few things, including myths of empathy, and just a couple, why empathy is important in leadership, multiple things here, and if we had the time to share all this with you, well, we wouldn't. Why? Because we still want you to buy the book. I'm not going to spoiler everything. We want you to go grab the book. We do sell books here, everyone, so that's okay. You can hit the buy button on that one, but Banu, I do want to give some more value. So I like to one specific section that stuck out to me that I think is going to get everybody's wheels turning on this is how do you develop empathy as a leader? So let's just say that we all accept that we're at a certain level, whether it's a 1, whether it's a 5, whatever the level is and whatever your scale is. But how do we improve?
Yeah, for sure. One of the key things that has helped me personally in my career, and I was very particular when I was building my career around this as well, is the ability to understand what actually happens in every role hands-on. So often what happens is we are pushed into these leadership positions, and sometimes we're managing people that we have no idea as to what they do. They happen to provide some sort of an input into our process. They happen to provide some sort of an expertise in our discussion, but apart from knowing that a certain output comes from them, we don't really know what are the daily struggles that they go through. And the best way of doing that is putting yourself in their shoes, whether that be, going through a day in the life of, having a coffee chat with them and understanding what sort of troubles they go through. One key thing is compliments are really nice when you are trying to bring in positive energy in a relationship, but I feel like complaints are usually where you really find your scope of improvement. You really find an opportunity to make a change. So with empathy and a leader who has a lot of empathy, they should be looking for opportunities to improve things for their team members. And one of the ways to do that is to really understand what that person goes through day in, day out. And that's not just a part of, what they've been successful. So when you're looking at KPI metrics or you're looking at performance management aspects, you should be looking at, what actually does this person do and what sort of challenges do they go through and how they've overcome that in their own personal way, as opposed to just looking at, they were successful in ABC and therefore they're a good employee. So that would, I think, be one of the main things that I would recommend for folks who are looking to develop this.
I love it, and I just have to read the opening 2 lines from this just because I like your writing style. You made me smile multiple times, and I'm like, oh, she's fun. So the best way of knowing what another person is going through is by putting yourself in their shoes. Unless it's Freaky Friday, that may not be completely possible, but you could definitely volunteer to try their work hands-on. I love it. I was like, oh my gosh, the references in this. Like sometimes you expect your writing is just not dry. It's fun. It's engaging. It makes you want to think, and it makes you want to learn more, and I think it was a great addition to the book overall, and I think that the message is one that I had this discussion with you earlier in the pre-call. I'm like, man, I learn more from reading our books than probably everybody else because I have to read them really closely to approve the final content, so I'm like, I learn the most out of this. I get the best deal, and you said, so I thank you for teaching me. I thank you for teaching the audience and our readers ultimately, and for really bringing this work to fruition. So that being said, I got to ask you now. You're done with the process. The book's out. We're published. Everything's good. How do you feel? Do you feel good?
It does feel very exciting because, it's something that I've done for the first time. I have penned a lot of my thoughts before for blogs, and I've been in marketing for, especially in the nonprofit side, for almost 15 years or so. But this gives a different level of elation for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. So, Banu, if somebody is listening to this and they want more information, they want to connect with you, follow your work, or anything else, what's the best way for the audience and readers to connect with you and your team?
Yeah, I'm really, I'm a frequent user of LinkedIn, so that would be the best way of connecting with me, and also because it's something that we are connecting over professional interests and relationships, and that would be a great platform to connect with me.
Fantastic. Well, Banu, again, congrats again for being chosen and for being published, and it's an honor to have you in the first edition of our Women Business Leader edition of Mission Matters, which we're very proud to bring out, and very proud again to have you be a part of. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review on the Apple iTunes Store, and if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Business, definitely give us a subscribe there, but also leave us some comments in the video. Love to know what kind of projects and things that you're working on. And Banu, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Adam. This has been wonderful.